Good morning, folks. It's another cloudy, rainy, squally October day in early July. I can't believe the weather. It's more like October weather than July. You would not expect the constant wind, rain, squalls that have been running through, and strong winds. You know, the last 25, 36 hours, whatever it is, has been probably 20 knot winds or 20 mile an hour winds. The day before that was up to 30 miles an hour. It's just been difficult to do any moving at all, so I've been stuck. The first half of the trip, first 10 days or so, really was smooth. There was typical sunny late June, early July days that you would expect. Little wind, but most of the time calm, and at least every day there was a window that I could move. Here, the last 10 days, or going into the last 10 days, just the opposite. It's windy, rainy, cloudy, generally nasty weather. I came in here yesterday, water temperature was 45 degrees. It did come up today. I see it's at around 52, which is a little low, but it's more close to what the open lake was at earlier. It did warm up. It had to have been just the mixing here of the wind and waves that have brought in the warmer water to warm it up in here. I can't account for why it was so cold. As to what the plans are here, I'm not sure. There may be an open window later in the afternoon where I can move down the lake a ways. The planned leg was to an island called Harbor Island, which is a really small island with a harbor in it, and that's it. However, that harbor is open to the southeast and south. I'm not sure it's the best, but it's the only one to the south. I could go east to the mainland. That's a little farther. I think to Harbor Island is about 8 miles, and to the mainland is about 12 miles. Just a rough hour more. However, because of the strong winds out of the west right now, the swells carry for a while. You know, the lake doesn't flatten out as soon as the wind drops. There's a leftover swell, and it may be that going to Harbor Island, I'll be exposing myself to too much side swell. It might be pretty rolly. If that's the case, I may be forced to head to the mainland instead. So we'll wait and see. I may not be going anywhere, because if that forecast doesn't hold up, then I won't be able to go. There's only about a 2 or 3 hour window that it looks like it would be reasonable to go. And that's roughly 5 p.m. to 7, 8 p.m., somewhere in there, in that ballpark. I won't make a decision until the wind drops and actually matches up with the forecast. And then I won't know which direction I'm going to go until I get out into the open lake and can see the conditions, because I don't want to go 8 miles rolling all over the place. Just makes it unpleasant. Other than that, I didn't sleep too well last night too. Woke up in the middle of the night, discovered I left out too much road. I thought I'd pulled in the bow anchor road to 40 feet. I had about 7-to-1 scope out, but I thought I did, but actually I had more than that, and that gave too much slack in the bow, so it allowed the bow to drop off and exposed itself to the boat to more swell. So it was rolling a little bit and woke me up. Not bad, but it was just noticeable, and I could hear the wind blowing, so I was a little concerned. Didn't really get up, but couldn't get back to sleep very well. I did doze off, I think, later, maybe an hour after that, but this morning I tightened up on the bow rode, and that made the whole difference. It's now keeps the bow up pretty much into the swell coming into the harbor here. The wind isn't coming from that direction, but there's waves tend to follow around the island and come into the harbor. If you go sideways to that, it's going to roll it and make you uncomfortable. So I put a stern anchor out. That's holding the stern in place and allowing the bow to keep up into the wind, not in the wind, but into the swell. The winds are supposed to drop off kind of slowly, well, from about now right through the afternoon. And I'm waiting for something below 8 miles an hour and a few hours of time to allow that swell to lay down before I'll make a move. I haven't washed the dishes yet because it's too cold outside. Right now, what do we got here? 57 degrees outside. So I've been running the heat. I'm at 69 inside, and I don't want to shut down the heater to wash dishes. I have to use the grate to put my dish pans and stuff on when I'm washing. I've been holding off. I can't go anywhere anyway for several hours, so figured I'd let the sun come out a little bit, although it's not supposed to be any sun today. I can see a little blue sky here and there, but conditions are supposed to be cloudy most of the day. So I don't expect it to warm up too much, but I was waiting for it to get above, up into the 60s. Then usually there's enough sunlight shining on even through the clouds. It'll heat up the cabin a little bit, so I can shut down the heater, and then just washing the dishes itself will create heat in the cabin. But I try to make it comfortable in here to read or listen to an audiobook while I'm trying to live this out. It's too cold to set out on any of the decks. Yesterday I flew the drone one flight and ended up breaking the handle that I do to retrieve the drone with. So I'm unable to fly the drone anymore unless I get, I could do it, but I have to catch it by hand, and that's riskier. I don't mind catching it with the extension that comes down below the bottom of the drone so I can grab it with my hand. That's fine, but to get right up in there with your fingers is exposing yourself to the props. And I'd wear gloves, but the problem is I'm running the controls, and you can't run controls and have gloves on your hand. It doesn't work very well. So I may have to hold off on flying the drone anymore until I could do some filming of the harbor before I leave there, and I may do that. But right now I'm on hold, on a weather hold. We'll get back to you later this afternoon, hopefully. It depends. It might be late if I end up going someplace. It may be earlier if it looks like the weather's going to not be good today to go. I may have to wait until morning to go. So we'll see. It's so many days of dreary weather and cold and windy and rain has made it a little bit discouraging. I have to say I'm discouraged by the lack of movement. If you can get off the boat, go hike, go kayak, whatever, that keeps you busy and occupied. But I can do reading and audiobooks and keep myself busy, but after a while I get tired of that and I want to do something else. And it's been hard to do that on this trip because there's just very few places where you can go ashore. The trees come right down to the shore. There's very little open rock areas. That island I was on a few days back, that was one of the few that I've seen. There was an anchorage there that was in Ramsay Island. That had some open areas that you could maybe pull in, but they weren't developed. There was no openings there. There was just or no landings. It was just an opening under the trees where you could maybe make a landing. But there's also no trails to hike. I guess you could probably find trails if you go to any of the parks. The area that I'm at, center part of the lake, there are no parks and there are no trails, at least that I know of. Maybe there are, but I just don't know about them. So that's also makes it harder to kill time when you can't get off the boat and hike. And I haven't seen much in the way of kayaking waters either. Frankly, I haven't used a kayak because the only place I was able to could have used it was that Ray Lake back very early on in the trip. Unfortunately, I couldn't get off the main lake with the boat. There was a rock barrier there into the entrance of that river. So not having a safe place to keep the boat while I go kayak up that river, I just didn't feel that was safe, so I wasn't able to take advantage of that. There's been a couple other areas too. That island that I was camped on, that was another one that had an area that was good, but then the wind blew. Almost every day I was there too. So when the wind blows, it doesn't make it a lot of fun to go out kayaking. One of my goals there is to try to see wildlife, and so the quietness and being able to carry my camera and sneak up critters is kind of fun to do that in quiet waters. But when it's rough, you're not sneaking up on anything because you're usually slopping around in the water too much with your paddles, too much noise, and it's just then you got to work to get back home. You might go downwind one way, but you're going to have to come upwind the other way. So I prefer not to go out when it's windy. So there you go. that's kind of a summary of how things have been going here just the last few days. What may happen over the next 24 hours, we'll see. It's remains to be seen. Anyway, you have a good day. We'll talk to you later. I was going to head to, I did not go. The wind will calm down and make it a little easier to live with later on. There you go. Good afternoon, folks. Thought I'd touch base with you one more time here today, at least to update you on what my plans are. I was going to try to move, looked like a possible wind window late afternoon, anywhere between 3 and 6. The problem is that the wind, although it will die down, there's going to be a lot of leftover swell that I'm not sure how long it will take to lay down. The wind has been from the west, and that means if I go south, which is the next planned harbor, about 8 miles away, I would be subject to a lot of roll, I suspect, even though the wind will be down. So I looked at some options. I thought, well, I could go to the mainland. That's about 12 miles to the southeast. Then I would be going more with the waves or the swells, and the wind would be, what little there is, would be behind me. However, there's undesirable options in both cases. One is that if I go to the mainland, that would be my last anchorage before I go into High Hill Marina, which is where I launched from, because there are no other harbors between where I would be going to High Hill. So that's one negative to go in that direction, because I've got 4 or 5 days left yet, and I don't want to spend it all in that one anchorage. If I go south, though, there's a small island harbor there that I think I mentioned earlier, but it's very exposed, and the wind is supposed to go south and even southeast, not very strong, but whatever wave action there will be would be coming right into that harbor. And it's even more exposed than this one. At least this one is deeper, and it also has a little bit of a curve that sticks out that somewhat blocks the south wind or waves. It also has 2 islands that are about 3 miles out that would tend to break up bigger waves. So of the 2 places to be overnight, this may be the best harbor to stay in. And it doesn't get better, because tomorrow night, if I go down to that other if I leave and go in the morning to the other small harbor just south of here, there's going to be south winds again the night after that. And they're going to get even stronger, up to 15 miles an hour or more. So that would mean what I really need to do then is go all the way to Shakespeare Island, which is about 16 miles. So I'm hoping I'll get better forecasts as it gets later in the day. I'm going to try to look and see if the morning would be the best bet, and that would make a long run of 16 miles down to Shakespeare. Then that harbor would provide a very good protection from the south winds. So I'm leaning towards that. I'm leaning towards making that long leg and staying here tonight, because this anchorage at least has a little better protection than the other one. And I'm already here. I'm set up for the swell coming into the harbor. So right now that's what I'm leaning towards, but I have no clear answer yet. I've got to keep watching the weather, see what the trends show. Unfortunately, my satellite navigation on Zoleo, the weather is pretty lousy. For one thing, it gives me every 2 hours on the day that I'm asked for weather, but in future it jumps from 3 hours and even to 6 hours. If you go out a day and a half or 2 days, it only gives you winds every 6 hours. That's not good enough. I mean, I can't really make plans on that. So I'm not happy with the Zoleo's weather. It's just not good, not detailed enough, and I've complained about it to Zoleo I've said, at least give an option to buy more detailed weather, because for marine planning, it's just inadequate. Anyway, though, that's kind of a summary of what's been going through my mind all day long here. I was a little bit down this morning, so I made some coffee cake late morning, and had coffee and fresh coffee cake. That kind of, always picks you up a little bit with the smells of baking cake and all that inside the cabin. That cheered me up a little bit, but the weather is still mostly cloudy. There's occasional spots of sun. The wind is dropping down. It's down about 15 miles an hour now, and it's supposed to continue to drop later in the afternoon. But like I told you, there's downsides of moving in any direction. If I go south, that'll give me, that'll be pretty much staying on the track that I originally planned, and then I could make a lot shorter jaunts to get back into Hill Harbor. The longest being, I think, is 10 miles. That would be the preferred. Depends on what the wind does and what the weather shows me. I'll update you later in the day if there's any news on what I'm going to do. Right now, I'm leaning to staying put, so we'll see how that goes. If I do, I had grilled chicken last night. I'll do grilled burgers for dinner, or I'll be underway. We'll see. So talk to you later. Good evening, folks. Thought I'd talk to you one more time today to let you know what my decision was for the evening. Long and the short of it is that I did not do anything. I stayed in the anchorage, decided not to accept the window that was open in about 4 to 6 time frame this afternoon to head south about 8 miles to Harbor Island. I decided not to do that. The main reason being that winds in the evening or overnight were going to go south and up to 13 miles an hour. And that particular harbor is very poorly protected. So I decided, based on the weather forecast, which looks pretty good tomorrow morning, rather than trying to do an 8-mile stretch tonight or late afternoon, to wait and go a 16-mile leg tomorrow and go all the way to Shakespeare Island, where I can get an anchorage that will be better protection for south winds, which are forecast for tomorrow night as well. So this particular anchorage I'm in is still open to the south, and I'm feeling that right now. In fact, it's very good that I didn't take off, because the last miles on that leg down to Harbor Island would have been rough, because the wind came up out of the south a lot sooner than they forecast, and it would have been a rough ride. It was doable. I don't think it would have been unsafe. It just would have been unpleasant. I decided not to go. Felt like this particular anchorage had a little bit more protection. I think I explained that earlier about the islands off the south end of the entrance here. I do have some whitecaps coming in the entrance, so there is some, you can hear the slapping of the waves on the bow. So there is some action here, and it may be unpleasant for trying to sleep tonight. I don't know. It's supposed to increase to 13. It's about 10 or 11 right now. So it could get a little worse, especially over time. The waves tend to build. But at least I'm heading into the wave action that's coming in. Long and the short of it is I'll stay here tonight. I'll plan to get an early start in the morning, and we'll head 16 miles straight south, pretty much south, to Shakespeare Island, where there's an anchorage that will be better protection for south winds that are forecast for tomorrow night. Decided to hold off and wait here and see how that goes. Enjoyed a nice dinner, hamburger, grilled burger, and with chips and a cold beer. And then I had strawberries and ice cream for dessert. So it hasn't been too tough, other than that it's chilly out. We got 59 degrees outside the air temperature right now, and so it's pretty cool. So setting out on the aft deck probably wasn't the best choice of desserts for today, but I just felt like it, and so that's what I did. I'm going to try to get some rest tonight. I didn't sleep very well last night. Tonight I'm angled better towards the waves that are coming into the harbor, and they're not serious at this point, but it will create motion that is a little hard to sleep sometimes, especially with that slapping on the metal hull. Anyway, that's the story of the afternoon and the decision that was made. This plan for tomorrow, I hope that the forecast holds up and that I can do that, but we won't know until tomorrow. I mean, this afternoon the forecast wasn't very accurate, so you never know until you actually see what you got. And even when you get off on a leg, if it's very long, things can change in a hurry on this lake. So I'm always apprehensive on these long legs, but at least on this one, there is a harbor halfway. So if I get stuck and things change quickly, I could duck into that harbor, even if it isn't the best on the lake. It's pretty open to the south and southeast, but it is harbor of refuge if I get in trouble. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. I'll talk to you then, and we'll update you on what's going on. You have a good evening.